Dr. Elena Reyes wiped grease from her hands as she checked the latest readings from her experimental engine. The efficiency numbers were promising, potentially revolutionary, if she could stabilize the output. 3 years of work, countless failures, and now she might finally. The laboratory lights flickered. Her monitors glitched, displaying cascading error messages before going dark. For a moment, Elena thought it was just another power surge from her prototype, but then she noticed the strange quality of light streaming through the windows, pulsing, crystalline, too bright yet somehow not blinding. She rushed outside with the other researchers to witness the sky fractured by impossible geometries. Massive ships descended worldwide, their surfaces shifting and refracting light in ways that made human eyes water trying to follow the patterns. Breaking news alerts flooded everyone's phones simultaneously. The visitors had appeared over every major city on Earth. "It can't be real," whispered Dr. Harmon beside her. "Some kind of mass hallucination." But the trembling of the ground beneath their feet as a smaller craft landed in the research facility's parking lot felt undeniably real. The ship's hull rippled like liquid metal before a seamless doorway materialized. The beings that emerged stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 6 limbs arranged in a configuration that suggested both insectoid and cephalopod ancestry. Their iridescent exoskeletons caught the sunlight, throwing prismatic reflections across the asphalt. 4 of their limbs moved with precise, mechanical efficiency while 2 remained folded in what Elena would later learn was a posture of authority. The lead alien activated a device at what approximated a throat. "We are the Valkyrie Ascendancy," it announced in flawless English. "Your world is now under our benevolent guidance. I am Sub-Commander Kravnur, assigned to assess this research installation." Within hours, humanity learned the full implications of benevolent guidance. The Valkyrie established orbital platforms that could disable any Earth technology at will. High Engineer Zex Toril, Supreme Commander of the occupation, addressed the United Nations in a broadcast that reached every screen on the planet. "Your civilization has potential," Zex Toril declared, his translator conveying the patronizing tone perfectly. "But your technological progress follows inefficient paths. Under Valkyrie direction, humanity will advance centuries within decades, once you abandon your crude methodologies." When the Chinese representative questioned what gave them the right to dictate Earth's development, Zex Toril gestured to an aide. The smaller Valkyrie produced a device no larger than a smartphone. One tap, and every defense system worldwide went offline simultaneously. Missile silos, submarines, aircraft, satellite weapons. Another tap, and they reactivated. Technological superiority gives us not just the right, but the obligation to guide lesser species, Zex Toril explained. "As you would not let a child play with dangerous tools, we cannot allow humanity to develop further without supervision." At Elena's facility, the Valkyrie inspection team moved with ruthless efficiency. They dismantled human equipment, replacing key systems with their own technology. Devices that seemed to operate on principles Elena couldn't begin to comprehend. "This combustion engine design," Kravnur said, examining Elena's prototype, "remarkably primitive. Yet I detect attempts at innovation." "That engine could reduce carbon emissions by 60%, Elena replied, struggling to keep her voice steady. Kravnur made a clicking sound that the translator rendered as laughter. "Carbon emissions. How quaint." He extended one limb, offering what appeared to be a small puzzle box. "Perhaps you can demonstrate your problem-solving capabilities. This is a simple calibration exercise our younglings master before formal education." Elena took the device, turning it carefully in her hands. Its surface shifted under her touch, revealing intricate patterns that seemed to move in impossible ways. She tried various manipulations, but the box remained inert. After several minutes, Kravnur reclaimed it, solving the puzzle with a series of quick, precise movements. "Do not be discouraged," he said. "Your species simply lacks the necessary cognitive framework. This is why we must guide you." As the aliens continued their inspection, Elena noticed something curious about their technology. a pattern in how the components interacted, a mathematical rhythm that seemed strangely familiar. She couldn't place it yet, but something about the Valkyrie's superior engineering nagged at her instincts. That night, as she watched Valkyrie ships replace Earth's satellite network with their own, Alina made a silent promise. She would understand their technology. And somehow, she would prove that human ingenuity deserved respect, not patronage. 3 months into the occupation, Alina's prestigious research position had devolved into what the Valkyrie euphemistically called technical assistance. In reality, she was little more than a glorified gopher, fetching tools for alien engineers who barely acknowledged her presence. Hydrospanner, demanded her supervisor, a mid-ranked Valkyrie named Tivlon. Alina handed over the alien tool, watching as Tivlon made microscopic adjustments to what had once been the facility's main generator. The power coupling ratio seems unstable, Alina observed, pointing to the fluctuating readings on the monitoring crystal. Tivlon's upper limbs twitched in what Alina had learned was annoyance. The instability is intentional. The oscillation creates a harmonic resonance that human mathematics cannot model. He turned away dismissively. Refresh my nutrient solution and recalibrate these sensor arrays. After her shift ended, Alina lingered in the transformed laboratory, ostensibly organizing component trays, but actually studying the Valkyrie modifications. She had developed a system of mental notation, committing alien designs to memory since recording devices were prohibited for human use. A sudden draft caught her attention. Strange in the hermetically sealed environment, the Valkyrie preferred. Following the subtle air current led her to a maintenance panel that appeared slightly misaligned. Curious, Alina pressed against it, discovering it concealed an old ventilation shaft, likely overlooked during the facility's conversion. The narrow passage descended 30 feet before opening into a Cold War-era civil defense bunker. Dust covered obsolete equipment and stacked supplies from decades past. Alina's pulse quickened as she explored the forgotten space, approximately 800 square feet, reinforced concrete walls, and most importantly, completely absent from Valkyrie facility schematics. Over the next 2 weeks, Alina spent every free moment converting the bunker into a workshop. She salvaged discarded human components and even managed to smuggle in defective Valkyrie tech destined for molecular recycling. Working with a jury-rigged power tap from ancient electrical conduits, she established a space entirely free from alien surveillance. Her first successful reverse engineering came from a damaged Valkyrie illumination node. After carefully disassembling it, Alina discovered the light wasn't generated through expected methods like LEDs or plasma, but through something akin to programmed bioluminescence. The crystalline structure contained engineered photosynthetic organelles that converted minimal energy input into sustained light production. She documented her findings in a coded system using musical notation, something she hoped would confuse Valkyrie algorithms should her notes ever be discovered. Each new insight revealed more about the underlying principles of alien technology. What exactly are you doing with that reclamation unit? Alina froze, a handful of discarded components clutched in her hand. She turned to find Kravnur watching her from the recycling center doorway. Salvage assessment, she improvised. Some of these might be repurposed for training exercises. Kravnur approached, his movement patterns different from other Valkyrie. Less rigid, more fluid. Interesting, especially since these particular components were designated for molecular dissolution due to quantum imperfections. Alina's heart raced. Discovery meant reassignment to a labor camp at best, neurological correction at worst. To her surprise, Kravnur sealed the door behind him. "Your species fascinates me," he said quietly, "particularly your approach to engineering problems. Did you know that Valkyrie technology has remained fundamentally unchanged for over 3 centuries? Refinements, yes. Optimizations, certainly. But true innovation." He made a gesture Alina couldn't interpret. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked cautiously. "Because I observed your attempt to solve the calibration puzzle I gave you. Your approach was incorrect, Yet, intriguing. You tried methods no Valkyrie would consider. His upper limbs performed a complex gesture. Our engineering is perfect by our standards, but perfection can become stagnation. He extended a limb, revealing a small data crystal. Technical specifications for our atmospheric modulators. Study them. I'm curious what a human perspective might see that we cannot. Why would you risk this? Elena asked, not reaching for the crystal yet. The Ascendancy faces challenges we cannot solve through standard methodologies. Some of us recognize that new perspectives may be necessary. His voice lowered. But if you reveal this interaction, I will ensure your neurological functions are thoroughly corrected. As Kravner departed, Elena held the forbidden crystal, understanding she faced a pivotal choice. Trust the alien with unknown motives, or refuse potentially valuable information. Either path carried enormous risk. She slipped the crystal into her pocket. In the battle between curiosity and caution, curiosity had always been her downfall, or perhaps her greatest strength. Elena awoke to emergency klaxons. The bunker shuddered as if struck by an earthquake, dust raining from ceiling cracks. She scrambled up the access shaft to find the research facility in chaos. Valkyrie engineers rushing through corridors as lighting systems flickered between normal illumination and emergency mode. What's happening? She asked a panicked human technician. Gravitational stabilizer failure at regional headquarters, he replied breathlessly. 20 stories of alien tech about to collapse in on itself. They're evacuating everyone within a half-mile radius. Elena felt the characteristic vibration pattern through the floor, harmonic oscillations growing more erratic by the minute. She'd been studying similar resonance patterns in the data crystal Kravner had provided, recognizing the distinctive signature of Valkyrie gravitational technology. Outside, evacuation craft hovered as Valkyrie personnel efficiently loaded equipment and personnel. The headquarters building, a gleaming spire of crystalline metal that had once been downtown's convention center, was visibly distorting, its upper floors stretching and compressing in ways that violated normal physics. You, human, a Valkyrie security officer intercepted Elena as she watched. Report to evacuation point 3. Before she could comply, another voice interrupted. Wait, this one comes with me. Kravner appeared, his exoskeleton showing stress patterns Elena hadn't seen before. High Engineer Zex Toril has requested technical assistance. For what purpose? The officer demanded. That is beyond your classification level. Kravner responded sharply. Minutes later, Elena found herself being rushed through the headquarters' undulating corridors. Gravity shifted unpredictably. One moment she weighed nothing, floating helplessly until Kravner secured her with a limb. The next, she was crushed to the floor by twice Earth's normal gravitational pull. The stabilizer core is failing, Kravner explained tersely as they navigated the chaos. 3 senior engineers have attempted standard protocols without success. Why am I here? Elena gasped as another gravity wave hit them. Because I suggested you might have insight. The high engineer was reluctant, but options are limited. They reached the central control chamber where Zex Toril and 2 other high-ranking Valkyrie worked frantically at control interfaces. Equipment floated randomly around the room during gravity fluctuations, crashing down dangerously during compensation surges. This is your solution. Zex Toril's voice conveyed pure contempt. A primitive during crisis. With respect, High Engineer, Kravner's posture became deferential. This human has demonstrated unusual problem-solving approaches. The standard protocols have failed, perhaps unorthodox methods. Enough. Zex Toril gestured sharply. Human, observe the stabilizer schematics. You have 5 minutes to provide useful input before we abandon this facility. Elena approached the holographic display, studying the intricate 3-dimensional model of the gravitational stabilizer. Unlike conventional human technology, Valkyrie systems integrated biological components with mechanical and quantum elements. The stabilizer core resembled a complex crystalline lattice pulsing with energy patterns. "The resonance is wrong," she murmured, recognizing patterns from her studies. "Your system was calibrated for standard Valkyrie homeworld parameters, but Earth's gravitational field has microfluctuations unique to our solar system configuration." She pointed to specific junction points. "These field harmonizers are fighting our native gravitational patterns instead of synchronizing with them. It's creating cascading feedback loops." Zextoral's limbs twitched with what Elena now recognized as skepticism. "Impossible. Our calculations accounted for all relevant variables, except Earth's irregular magnetic field interactions with solar radiation," Elena countered, her mind racing. "Your system is too perfect. It can't adapt to our chaotic environment." Another violent gravity surge sent equipment crashing across the room. A support beam partially collapsed, trapping one of the senior engineers. The building's structural integrity alarm intensified. "We need to introduce controlled instability," Elena explained urgently. "Reconfigure the primary emitters to create a counterphase that actually works with Earth's natural gravitational anomalies instead of suppressing them." "That violates fundamental engineering principles," Zextoral objected, but his posture had shifted subtly. "Your principles were developed for different worlds," Elena insisted. "Let me make the adjustments." As the building groaned ominously around them, Zextoral made a gesture she couldn't interpret. "Proceed. We have no alternatives remaining." With Krav-Nur translating her instructions, Elena directed emergency modifications to the stabilizer system. She repurposed coolant circulation pathways to create a dampening field and reconfigured power distribution to introduce controlled fluctuations that could adapt to Earth's natural gravitational variations. The modifications required physical intervention. Krav-Nur had to manually adjust crystal alignments within the core, while Elena monitored energy patterns from the control interface. Each adjustment brought momentary stability before new harmonics threatened to tear the building apart. "There," Elena exclaimed as she identified the critical frequency. "Lock the phase variance at 0.73 and amplify the adaptive resonance circuit." The chaotic oscillations gradually subsided. Gravity normalized floor by floor. Status indicators shifted from critical red to cautionary amber, then finally to stable green. The structural integrity alarms silenced. In the sudden quiet, Elena became acutely aware of the Valkyrie engineers staring at her with what she could only interpret as stunned disbelief. "Impossible," whispered one of the senior engineers. Zextoral approached the stabilizer readouts, examining them with methodical precision. "The system is not merely stabilized," he noted with evident reluctance. "Efficiency has increased by 4.7%. He turned to Elena, his posture inscrutable. "Explain your methodology." "Human engineering evolved from scarcity and limitation," she replied carefully. "We learned to work with environmental chaos rather than imposing perfect order upon it. Sometimes the most resilient system isn't the most theoretically perfect one, but the one that can adapt to unexpected variables." For the first time, Elena sensed something beyond contempt in the high engineer's regard, perhaps the faintest glimmer of curiosity. Elena's solution to the stabilizer crisis became impossible to contain. Within days, whispers spread through human circles about the engineer who had saved the Valkyrie headquarters when their own experts failed. The occupation authorities attempted to suppress the story, but in typical human fashion, prohibition only fueled fascination. 2 weeks after the incident, Elena received an unexpected delivery at her quarters. A package containing only a broken circuit board and a handwritten note with a time and location. Her curiosity piqued. She made her way to an abandoned subway maintenance tunnel at the appointed hour. "Dr. Reyes," a voice called from the shadows. A woman stepped forward. "Dr. Maya Chandra, formerly of the Indian Space Research Organization. I wasn't sure you'd come." "I'm not sure why I did," Elena admitted. Maya smiled. "Same reason any scientist would, to see what happens next." She led Elena deeper into the tunnel network where, to her astonishment, a makeshift laboratory had been established. A dozen people from various technical fields worked at improvised stations, examining pieces of Valkyrie technology under harsh portable lights. "Welcome to the workshop," Maya explained. "We're an international collaboration. That circuit board I sent you. Japanese engineers discovered it uses quantum entanglement for data transmission, something our physics theorized but couldn't achieve until now." Alina examined the space in disbelief. "How are you operating without detection?" "The Valkyrie monitoring systems are designed to detect power signatures and electromagnetic transmissions," interrupted a lanky man with a thick German accent. "Dr. Werner Keller, quantum physics. We've identified blind spots in their surveillance network by analyzing traffic patterns. Plus, we're borrowing a page from history, going analog where possible." He gestured to walls covered with hand-drawn schematics and notes on paper. "They monitor digital communications, so we've created an old-school messenger network using maintenance workers, cleaning staff, and delivery personnel who can move between facilities. What you did with the stabilizer confirmed what we suspected," Maya continued. "Their technology is advanced but inflexible, perfectly optimized for standard conditions, catastrophically vulnerable to unexpected variables." Alina spent hours reviewing their findings. A biochemist from Nigeria had discovered that Valkyrie biotech responded unpredictably to Earth's microbial environment. An Australian materials scientist had identified structural weaknesses in Valkyrie alloys under specific radiation frequencies. Each discovery revealed new aspects of alien technology's limitations. "The Valkyrie approach everything linearly," explained a former MIT professor, showing Alina a dissected alien power cell. "Their engineering is like a perfect mathematical proof, elegant, precise, and utterly dependent on all initial conditions being exactly as anticipated." Human engineering is messier, Alina realized, thinking of her own methods. "We build redundancies, fail-safes, adaptive systems. Because we evolved in chaos," the professor finished. "They evolved seeking perfect order." As dawn approached, Maya showed Alina their most ambitious project, a secured communication system using repurposed Valkyrie components combined with antiquated human radio technology. The hybrid approach created transmission patterns the alien monitoring systems couldn't recognize as artificial. "We need you to join us," Maya said. "Your access to their facility gives you opportunities none of us have. And after the stabilizer incident, they'll be watching you closely. Best to have support." Alina hesitated. "There's something else you should know. A Valkyrie engineer named Krav Mir has been sharing information with me. I think there may be a faction among them questioning their approach." The news sent ripples of surprise through the group. Debate erupted about whether to trust any Valkyrie, regardless of apparent motives. "We should proceed cautiously," Werner advised. "But if true, this could be significant. Their system is hierarchical. Change would need to come from within as well as pressure from without." As they finalized arrangements for future collaboration, Alina received a coded alert from her makeshift security system in the bunker. Someone was accessing her hidden workshop. She rushed back through early morning streets to find Krav Mir examining her reverse engineering attempts. Instead of anger, his posture conveyed something closer to excitement. "Remarkable adaptations," he said, gesturing to her jury-rigged testing apparatus. "You've integrated quantum relay principles with analog filtering, an approach no Valkyrie would consider." He extended a limb holding a new data crystal. "The stabilizer incident has created opportunities. Zextoral has authorized a limited research initiative to understand human engineering perspectives." "Why would he do that after spending months telling us how primitive we are?" Alina asked suspiciously. "Because the Valkyrie value efficiency above all else," Krav Mir replied. "And your solution was 4.7% more efficient than our standard approach. A small percentage, perhaps, but across thousands of systems throughout our territories." He made a gesture indicating vast significance. "What's on the crystal?" "Schematics for our major planetary systems. Officially, you're to review them for potential instabilities unique to Earth's environment." His voice lowered. Unofficially, I believe you'll find evidence of the true crisis facing the Ascendancy, one that threatens not just Earth, but every world under Valkyrie control. 2 days after receiving the new data crystal, Elena sat stunned in her hidden bunker. The information Kravmir had provided wasn't just schematics. It was evidence of a catastrophic flaw in Valkyrie atmospheric processors deployed across multiple worlds. The complex system that modified Earth's atmosphere to better accommodate Valkyrie biology contained a fundamental design error when applied to naturally evolving planetary ecosystems. Her analysis predicted system-wide failure within weeks, perhaps days. Before she could bring her findings to the workshop, the facility's emergency sirens activated. Through her makeshift monitoring system, Elena intercepted fragmented Valkyrie communications, indicating atmospheric anomalies had been detected. They were already beginning. She rushed to the main laboratory where chaos had erupted. Valkyrie engineers huddled around monitoring stations displaying alarming readings. Atmospheric composition shifting rapidly, strange particulates forming in the air, electronic systems experiencing unexplained failures. The processors are destabilizing the molecular bonds in our atmosphere, a senior Valkyrie engineer announced, generating compounds toxic to both species. Outside, the sky had taken on an ominous copper tinge. Reports flowed in from around the globe of similar phenomena: crops withering, electronic failures, and respiratory distress among both humans and Valkyrie. Elena watched as Zextoral strode into the command center, his movements betraying unusual urgency. After reviewing the data, he issued a directive that sent ice through her veins. Initiate protocol severance. All essential personnel and technology will evacuate within 12 hours. Earth is to be classified as non-viable. Sir, objected a junior engineer, thousands of our personnel and millions of humans will remain. Acceptable losses, Zextoral cut him off. The Ascendancy cannot risk further resource expenditure on a failed integration. Elena caught Kravmir's gaze across the room. His subtle gestures conveyed a clear message. This had happened before. As evacuation orders spread through the facility, Elena made a decision. Slipping away to her quarters, she accessed the facility's emergency broadcast system using access codes she gleaned from her studies. Taking a deep breath, she activated the global channel typically reserved for Valkyrie official announcements. Attention all Valkyrie authorities, she began, her face appearing on screens throughout the complex and beyond. This is Dr. Elena Reyes, Earth specialist on atmospheric systems. The current crisis is solvable. Your evacuation is premature and unnecessary. Alarms blared as security forces tried to trace and terminate her broadcast, but the workshop's modifications gave her a critical buffer. High Engineer Zextoral, she continued, knowing he would be watching. You claim technological superiority, yet you abandon planets at the first sign of system failure. This is the 13th world where your atmospheric processors have malfunctioned. You've never solved the problem, just abandoned the affected populations. Displays throughout the facility showed Elena's transmission being forcibly terminated, then reappearing on different channels as workshop members aided her electronic resistance. I formally challenge you under Article 7 of the Valkyrie Technological Code, she declared, citing information Kravmir had shared about their cultural protocols. Give humanity 72 hours to solve what you cannot. If we succeed, you will recognize humans as technological equals with representation on all future governance councils. If we fail, Earth accepts permanent subordinate status. The broadcast cut off as security forces finally located and surrounded her. Zextoral himself arrived moments later, limbs rigid with what she now recognized as controlled fury. You invoke our challenge protocols without right, he stated coldly, and spread classified information about prior interventions. Yet you cannot deny the challenge without violating your own most sacred principles, Elena countered. Your engineers have failed to solve this atmospheric degradation on 12 previous worlds. The evacuation ships are already preparing. You have nothing to lose by granting us the opportunity. The command center fell silent, all eyes on Zextoril. Alina knew she was gambling everything on what Krav Nur had told her about Valkyrie cultural imperatives, that challenges to technical capability must be answered or honor lost. After a long pause, Zextoril's posture shifted to formal declaration mode. Challenge accepted under modified terms. Your team will have access to one atmospheric processor for 72 hours while evacuation proceeds. Success must be demonstrable and reproducible. As security escorted her away to assemble her team, Alina passed Krav Nur in the corridor. "You knew this would happen," she whispered. "You knew the processors would fail." "I suspected," he corrected quietly. "But I did not know you would challenge the High Engineer directly. It is unprecedented." "Will you join us?" she asked. His answering gesture conveyed both determination and resignation. "I will serve as Valkyrie observer. If you fail, my life is forfeit alongside your world." As the facility continued emergency evacuation preparations, Alina sent encrypted signals to the workshop. They had 3 days to solve a problem that had defeated the most advanced civilization in the known galaxy, with millions of lives hanging in the balance. The atmospheric processor loomed like a crystalline cathedral, its towering spires pulsing with energy that twisted light in impossible ways. Alina stood before it with her hastily assembled team. Maya Chandra, Werner Keller, and 8 other specialists gathered from the workshop's global network. They had precisely 69 hours remaining. Magnificent engineering, Dr. Abasi Okafor, a Nigerian quantum physicist, whispered, yet fundamentally flawed. Krav Nur provided access to the control systems while maintaining the formal detachment required of his observer role. A handful of young Valkyrie engineers had defied evacuation orders to remain, watching from a distance with what Alina interpreted as equal parts skepticism and curiosity. The processor was designed to perform atmospheric conversion with perfect efficiency under ideal conditions, Alina explained, displaying the schematics from Krav Nur's crystal. But Earth's atmosphere isn't static. It's a chaotic system influenced by oceanic currents, solar radiation fluctuations, and millions of biological processes. They're treating a living system like a mechanical one, observed Dr. Lin Wei, a climatologist from Beijing. Their algorithms can't adapt to natural variability. The team divided into specialized groups. While the engineers and physicists analyzed the processor's technical architecture, Alina made an unexpected addition to the team. Professor James Morales, a jazz saxophonist with synesthesia who visualized sound as patterns. The atmospheric degradation has a rhythm to it, Morales explained, listening to the data translated into audio form. It's like a feedback loop that keeps amplifying itself. The processor is fighting against atmospheric variations instead of working with them. By hour 30, they had identified the fundamental flaw. The Valkyrie system imposed rigid order on atmospheric composition, forcing it to maintain perfect equilibrium. When natural variations occurred, the processor applied increasing energy to suppress them, creating cascade failures as the system fought against Earth's inherent atmospheric rhythms. Their approach is like trying to straighten a river, Alina told the team during a brief rest period. Ours need to be more like building a mill that harnesses the river's natural flow. Werner Keller's team proposed a radical modification. Rather than suppressing atmospheric variations, the processor should incorporate them into its operational model, using Earth's natural fluctuations as part of the energy cycle. It's counterintuitive by Valkyrie standards, Maya noted. They engineer for perfect stability. We're suggesting controlled instability as a feature, not a flaw. The implementation required physically reconfiguring crystalline nodes within the processor core, a dangerous task as the system continued degrading around them. 2 team members suffered chemical burns during the process, but refused to abandon their stations. Professor Morels proved unexpectedly valuable, using his synesthetic perception to identify harmonic patterns in the energy flows that conventional instruments missed. It's like tuning a massive instrument, he explained. We're not imposing our will on the atmosphere. We're finding its natural melody and amplifying it. At hour 65, they were ready to activate the modified system. The processor core now incorporated biological components derived from earth plants that naturally processed atmospheric compounds, creating a hybrid system that could adapt to changing conditions. This violates 17 standard Valkyrie engineering protocols, Krav-Nur observed as they prepared for activation. That's precisely why it will work, Alina replied. She initialized the sequence with a silent prayer. The processor's energy signature changed immediately, shifting from rigid geometric patterns to flowing, organic ones. The crystalline structure vibrated with new frequencies as the modified algorithms accepted atmospheric variations rather than fighting them. For several tense minutes, readings fluctuated wildly. A support strut cracked under strain, nearly crushing Dr. Lin before Werner pulled her to safety. Then, gradually, the system stabilized, not in the perfect equilibrium the Valkyrie had programmed, but in a dynamic balance that incorporated environmental feedback. Atmospheric toxicity decreasing by 3% per hour, Maya reported, examining the readings with disbelief. It's working. Elena studied the efficiency metrics, knowing they would be crucial to convincing Zextoril. Energy consumption reduced by 22% compared to the original design, she noted. The system is using Earth's natural processes to supplement its functions instead of constantly fighting against them. Outside, the copper tinge in the sky began to dissipate. Satellite data confirmed the effect was spreading globally as the networked processors adopted the new programming automatically. Krav-Nur approached Alina, his posture conveying what she now recognized as profound respect. "You didn't just repair the system," he said quietly. "You evolved it." The young Valkyrie engineers who had remained behind clustered around the monitoring stations, their movements betraying excitement that transcended cultural restraint. "We've done more than save Earth," Elena told her exhausted team as they watched toxic compounds breaking down throughout the atmosphere. "We've demonstrated a fundamentally different approach to engineering, one that embraces adaptation over rigid perfection." As the 72-hour deadline approached, they received word that Zextoril's evacuation ship had reversed course. The high engineer was returning to witness their results personally. The challenge was over, but the real test was just beginning. High engineer Zextoril's arrival created a palpable tension that filled the processor control center. His entourage of senior Valkyrie officials moved with choreographed precision, their exoskeletons adorned with markings of rank and accomplishment. The atmospheric processor hummed with its new harmonics, no longer fighting Earth's natural patterns, but incorporating them into its function. "Explain," Zextoril commanded, his translator conveying neither approval nor condemnation. Elena stepped forward, displaying holographic data that tracked the processor's performance over the past 12 hours. "We identified the fundamental flaw in your atmospheric conversion matrix. It was designed to impose absolute uniformity on a naturally variable system." She gestured to the modified crystalline core, where biological components now interface with the quantum lattice. "Our solution introduces adaptive algorithms that incorporate atmospheric fluctuations rather than suppress them. The system now works with Earth's natural cycles instead of against them." Zextoril studied the readings, his movements betraying what Elena had learned to recognize as incredulity. "You've reduced energy consumption while increasing atmospheric purification rates. This defies established engineering principles." "Only Valkyrie principles," Werner interjected boldly. "Human engineering evolved from resource scarcity. We learned to leverage natural processes because we couldn't afford perfect solutions." The high engineer circled the modified processor, examining the hybrid interfaces where human technology seamlessly integrated with Valkyrie components. These biological elements should degrade the system efficiency, yet they appear to be enhancing it. "Because they evolve," Elena explained. "Unlike crystalline structures, biological systems adapt to changing conditions. They learn." The senior officials conferred in their native language, their rapid clicking sounds untranslated. Several gestured toward data displays where toxic compound levels continued to decrease globally as the networked processors adopted the new programming. Krav Nur approached with a data tablet, his posture formal but his movements conveying subdued excitement. "Hi, engineer, I've compiled the efficiency metrics across all deployed processors. Average improvement, 26.4% with continued optimization occurring automatically. These results cannot be dismissed," Zex Toril acknowledged, addressing his officials. "The human solution has succeeded where our standard protocols failed." He turned to Elena, his posture shifting to what she now recognized as formal declaration mode. "In accordance with Challenge Protocol, I acknowledge humanity's technological contribution. A joint governance council will be established." A ripple of reaction passed through both the Valkyrie officials and the human team. But before celebration could begin, Krav Nur initiated a secure display that only the High Engineer and Elena could view. With permission, he began cautiously, "There is further evidence that must be considered." The display showed data from 12 other worlds where atmospheric processors had failed, each abandoned by the Valkyrie rather than adapted. On each planet, the same rigid approach had created similar cascading failures when faced with natural planetary variations. "The systemic failure pattern is identical across multiple ecosystems," Krav Nur continued. "This suggests a fundamental limitation in our engineering approach, not merely isolated incidents." Elena watched Zex Toril's reaction carefully. His limbs tensed in what she now understood was profound discomfort. He was confronting evidence that challenged millennia of Valkyrie technological philosophy. "How many inhabitants were abandoned on these worlds?" she asked quietly. "Approximately 3.7 billion sentient beings across all affected systems," Krav Nur answered. "Most would have perished within weeks of processor failure." The control room fell silent. Even the most skeptical Valkyrie officials seemed disturbed by this revelation. "Our rigid approach to perfectionism has become our greatest vulnerability," Zex Toril finally acknowledged, his translator conveying an unprecedented tone of humility. "We optimize systems to theoretical perfection, yet fail to incorporate adaptation to environmental variability." He made a gesture that Elena didn't recognize. Krav Nur's posture straightened in apparent surprise. "The adaptation directive," he whispered to Elena. "It hasn't been invoked in 7 centuries. Zex Toril addressed the entire gathering. "The evidence is conclusive. Human engineering approaches have solved a critical problem our methods could not address. In accordance with the adaptation directive, I am establishing not merely a joint governance council, but a technological integration initiative." He turned to Elena directly. "Dr. Rice, you will help lead this initiative. Your team's solution must be implemented across all affected worlds immediately." "You're proposing a fundamental shift in Valkyrie engineering philosophy," Elena observed, hardly believing what she was hearing. "We are," Zex Toril confirmed. "The Valkyrie reached technological greatness through perfect optimization. But perfect systems become brittle when facing unpredictable variables. Your species thrived despite limitations by embracing adaptation and creative problem-solving." He gestured to the humming processor. "This hybrid approach, combining Valkyrie precision with human adaptability, represents not merely a repair, but an evolution of technology itself, a mechanical miracle that neither of our species could have achieved alone." As the formal announcements concluded, Elena found herself standing beside Krav Nur at the observation window overlooking the facility grounds. Outside, the sky had cleared to a natural blue, no longer tainted by the copper hue of atmospheric degradation. "You knew this would happen," she said quietly. "Not just the processor failure, but this entire confrontation between our approaches." "I hypothesized," he corrected. "The evidence of our technological stagnation has been accumulating for centuries, but our hierarchical structure prevented acknowledgement of fundamental flaws." "What happens now?" Elena asked. "Something unprecedented," Krav Nur replied, his gesture conveying both uncertainty and anticipation. "Our civilizations begin to learn from each other. 1 year after the atmospheric crisis, Earth had transformed. The Joint Innovation Complex, a spectacular fusion of Valkyrie crystalline architecture and human organic design, rose from what had once been Alina's modest research facility. Inside, mixed teams of humans and Valkyrie worked side by side, their collaborative efforts yielding technological breakthroughs at an unprecedented rate. Alina stood on the observation deck, watching new recruits arrive. Human engineers in casual attire mingled with Valkyrie technicians whose formal posture had relaxed noticeably over the months of collaboration. The rigid hierarchy that once defined Valkyrie society had begun to evolve, influenced by human social structures just as human technology had been elevated by Valkyrie precision. Admiring your creation, Kravnir joined her, his exoskeleton now bearing the distinctive markings of the Integration Council. Our creation, Alina corrected. I'd still be tinkering with combustion engines if you hadn't smuggled me that first data crystal. Their relationship had evolved into something unique, neither completely professional nor entirely personal. The boundaries between their species remained, but they had found connection through shared intellectual passion and mutual respect. The A-37 transport is ready for inspection, Kravnir noted, gesturing toward the landing field where a sleek vessel hummed with quiet energy, first of the new hybrid propulsion fleet. They made their way to the ship that represented their most ambitious collaboration yet. Its engines combined Valkyrie quantum field manipulation with human-designed adaptive systems that could reconfigure in response to different planetary atmospheres and gravitational conditions. Remarkable efficiency metrics, announced Dr. Abasi Okafor, now Chief of Propulsion Systems. And unlike standard Valkyrie designs, it's actually improved performance during atmospheric turbulence testing. Inside the craft, human interfaces with their intuitive controls sat alongside Valkyrie precision instruments. The vessel could be operated by either species alone, but achieved optimal performance when piloted collaboratively. We've come to assess your progress, not celebrate prematurely, came a familiar voice. Zex Toril, now bearing the markings of Supreme Technological Overseer, entered with his entourage. Though his manner remained formal, Alina had learned to recognize subtle changes in his communication. The contempt that once colored his every interaction with humans had been replaced by genuine, if reserved, respect. The hybrid fleet represents more than technological advancement, Zex Toril acknowledged after reviewing the performance data. It symbolizes the ongoing evolution of our approach to engineering challenges. He hesitated, then added something unprecedented. I was incorrect in my initial assessment of human capabilities. Your species' understanding of adaptive systems has addressed vulnerabilities throughout our empire that we couldn't recognize within our own paradigm. Before Alina could respond, an urgent communication interrupted them. A Valkyrie colony in the Proxima system had sent a distress signal. Their planetary defense grid was failing against unexpected stellar radiation fluctuations. The Valkyrie Council had specifically requested a mixed human-Valkyrie response team. The radiation patterns exceed our defensive algorithms' parameters, explained the colony governor via holographic communication. Standard Valkyrie solutions have proven inadequate. 2 hours later, Alina found herself aboard the A-37 with a hastily assembled team of specialists from both species. As Earth receded behind them, Kravnir piloted the ship through the transition to quantum space. This is a test of more than our technology, he observed. It's a test of our new collaborative approach. That's why we'll succeed, Alina replied with quiet confidence. The Valkyrie excel at optimizing known solutions, while humans specialize in confronting the unknown. As the vessel accelerated to speeds that would have been impossible a year earlier, Alina reflected on the remarkable journey from subjugation to partnership. The Valkyrie had arrived seeing humans as primitive creatures to be managed. Now they sought human insight specifically because it offered perspectives their perfect but rigid systems couldn't provide. In the engineering bay, human and Valkyrie specialists were already developing prototype modifications to the colony's defense grid, combining theoretical precision with intuitive leaps that neither species could have achieved alone. Their animated discussion, once impossible under strict Valkyrie protocols, produced innovations in real time as they approached the crisis. When they reached the Proxima colony 3 days later, they found a situation more dire than reported. The radiation surge had damaged critical infrastructure, threatening the entire settlement's survival. Traditional Valkyrie engineering teams had attempted textbook solutions with diminishing returns. The problem isn't just the radiation intensity, Elena realized after analyzing the data. It's the chaotic fluctuation pattern. Their systems can't predict the surges because they don't follow standard models. The team deployed their hybrid solution, a defense grid that incorporated both Valkyrie quantum shielding and human-designed neuroadaptive algorithms that could learn from each radiation surge to better predict the next one. Instead of trying to impose perfect protection, the system embraced incomplete information as a feature, continually evolving its response. As the grid stabilized, Elena observed something remarkable. The Valkyrie colonists, who once would have rigidly followed hierarchical protocols, were adopting human troubleshooting approaches, trying multiple solutions simultaneously and building on partial successes rather than waiting for perfect answers. "They're changing the way they think," she whispered to Krav Nur. "As are we," he replied. "Your human imprecision is strangely compelling." 2 weeks later, as they prepared to return to Earth, Elena received a transmission from the workshop, now a formal research division within the Joint Innovation Complex. Maya Chandra's team had successfully integrated Valkyrie quantum principles with Earth's internet infrastructure, creating a communication system that operated across previously impossible distances. "It seems we keep finding new ways our different approaches complement each other," Elena told Zex Toril during their departure briefing. The high engineer made a gesture she had never seen before, one that the translator rendered with unexpected poetry. "The universe itself operates on principles of both precision and chaos. Perhaps our species were meant to discover this truth together." As their ship turned toward home, Elena watched the stars through the viewport. Humanity had faced subjugation by a technologically superior civilization, yet had transformed that relationship through something no technology could replicate: the uniquely human ability to find opportunity in limitation, to create strength from apparent weakness. It was, in every sense, a mechanical miracle, not of perfect design, but of imperfect adaptability. Not of flawless execution, but of continuous evolution. Not of one species' genius, but of two civilizations learning that their greatest advances would come not from working separately, but together.